What's going on, guys? K-Pine here and welcome back. And in this video I'll be featuring Lurantis in the Retro Cup. Lurantis is one of those Pokemon that I just love using in limited metas, not only because it's fun to use, but it hits hard, spams out moves, and is just an all-around strong off-meta pick. And the Retro Cup is no exception. Since normal types like Lickitung and Dunsparce are everywhere, you have access to Superpower to put them in a world of hurt. I paired it up with Shadow Walrein on the safe swap and Lanturn in the back, essentially as an ABB line to any flyers you might see on the lead. I did end up going positive with a couple of nice sets on both days I used this team, even climbing up to as high as 19th on the leaderboards. And with that, let's get right into the battles. Alright, getting to the first battle, we lead Lurantis into that Lickitung. We're going to see what my opponent wants to do. They're going to save swap into an Altaria, and whether this is the Retro Cup or the Open Great League, Altaria is not a good save swap just because if you happen to get it locked into an ice type, it's absolutely miserable. And my opponent, interestingly enough, they do give up a shield there, so I will give up a shield of my own, over farm, and then throw this Icicle Spear right before they get to their next Sky attack. Perhaps they wanted a little bit more of Dragon Breath damage on my Walrein before they let their Altaria go down. But back in comes the Lickitung. I'm going to farm up, throw the Icicle Spear on what would be the CMP to the Body Slam, but my opponent smartly reads this. They over farm and do not play to that CMP tie. But with all that energy we had against that Altaria, we're able to reach another Icicle Spear, brings the Lickitung down in the red. And here I'm reading, okay, so with the way my opponent's been playing this matchup, I'm reading that they have another Pokemon weak to an ice type in the back. So I should have swapped out of my Shadow Walrein a little bit earlier because of that, but I do recognize a little bit in time, so I'm able to save some HP on it for potential 1 or 2 extra Powder Snows of damage, which they are weak with that Shadow Walrein. We're able to get off that last Superpower to guarantee the shield. And now this matchup is doable for the Lanturn. Up 1 shield to 0, we can make this happen. I'm going to throw this Surf right away, and then from here I can gauge if another Surf will be enough to take it out, or if I need a Thunderbolt. And because that Surf brings it down to just below half health, it seems as though a Thunderbolt is needed. So I will take the first Body Slam just in case they are running Dragon Pulse. And I will shield the second one. And now I'm looking for my opponent to try and catch, which they do. And I might have been able to farm down there, but I get a little scared. So I throw a move a little early. I still have a Surf stored, so I'll be able to get this off into the D-Nair. But this is why we saved our Shadow Walrein from earlier. Throw that move, swap into the Shadow Walrein, and 1 Powder Snow is able to do it. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Lurantis into Shadow Nidoqueen. This is a terrible lead for us, as those poison jabs absolutely chunk away at the Lurantis. It's a little bit better if we are able to get some energy coming back into it, because those leaf blades do hit for neutral and they hit quite hard. So that was sort of my plan, swap into the Walrein and then get energy on the Lurantis, or take switch if possible. But they bring in a Metacham, and this match goes from bad to worse. As you'll see, they are Power Up Punch as well, and 2 Icicle Spears is just not quite enough to take it out, but this does put it in Fury Cutter downrange. And this is only another Power Up Punch, so I don't need to shield it. I'm doing all right. So we take it down. Back in comes the Nidoqueen. I'm going to throw a Leaf Blade here, then dip into my Lanturn and hope it's something that my Lanturn can deal with, trying to allow me to flip this matchup. But my opponent's going to stand. They're going to build up to that Earth Power. But they're a Shadow Nidoqueen. I have 2 shields. They're gonna Poison Fang. It's what they always do. And my opponent gets that debuff and then swaps into a Lickitung. And unfortunately, because of that debuff being applied, I am not quite gonna be able to do this, take this one, it seems. The Lickitung might just be a little too much to overcome, but we're gonna play it out. It does take 3 moves to take out the Lickitung. So that's why I do go for the Thunderbolt first, get the most damage off from there, and as they're least likely to shield the first move, and then I can spam out the Surfs afterwards. I will have to give up a shield here to this Body Slam. I'm going to store that energy and insta-swap into my Lurantis, try and over-farm as much as possible, but I'm off count by a single lick. Down goes Lurantis, in comes the Nidoqueen, and they have a move, the Poison Fang, to take out my Lanturn. Even if I was able to get that move off in time, that gives the Nidoqueen more farm, so I still think I don't take that one. But either way, well played to my opponent. GG's. Next matchup, Lurantis into Froslass. Now, you're gonna want to play it a little bit differently than I do in here. These battles are from the first day I ran this team. The second day I did a Froslass Lead a little differently, and it tended to work out a little bit better. On a Froslass Lead, you're going to want to stay in with that Lurantis and throw that Leaf Blade right away. It's 9 turns, 9 Fury Cutters to that Leaf Blade, as opposed to a 2-turn move, so it's on good timing as well. Lurantis, kind of glassy, but hits like a truck, so even a neutral Leaf Blade is going to do a respectable amount of damage. So you throw that Leaf Blade, then dip into your Walrein, and that just about puts it around Icicle Spear range 2, Icicle Spear plus some more Powder Snows, but it's a lot better than swapping into your Walrein right away. And by eventually swapping into your Walrein, what it also does is you bait out potential Dunsparce in the back, because I know a very popular team in this cup is Froslass double normal, Froslass double Lickitung, Froslass Dunsparce Lickitung. So by swapping into your Shadow Walrein there, you bait it out, you bait the Dunsparce out, so your Lanturn doesn't have to see it. And also, if you notice, we were able to tank a Rock Slide and take switch advantage, so we were able to align the Froslass up to our Lanturn, and in comes a double. We do go down 2 shields here just to get rid of the Froslass, but Lurantis, it can tank a Body Slam no problem, as well as the threat of a Superpower here. So I do go for the Surf bait, since they did have 2 shields. Luckily it pays off. And from here, I'm gauging that I can just barely survive another Body Slam, so I go for the Surf. Really, probably should have gone for the Thunderbolt here, as they aren't going to shield, trying to save that energy for the Lurantis. My opponent smartly goes for the Payback to take me out, but I'm doing just fine, as I will be able to survive one move, whether they go for the Payback or the Body Slam. They go for the Body Slam, and now I will be able to outpace to the back-to-back Leaf Blades before my opponent can reach a Payback in time, or their next Body Slam, as we just outpace, just in general. Lurantis extremely spammy, get into those Leaf Blades very, very quick, able to take that one for us. GG's. Next battle, we lead Lurantis into Deoxys. This is a great lead, as these Fury Cutters are doing super effective damage, and look at that health on the DD go down. Now they swap into a Magcargo, which is definitely not going to appreciate that Superpower. So we guarantee that shield, and now we swap into our Lanturn to shut this Magcargo down. They do go for a Rock Tomb to lower my attack, which now unfortunately makes it so one Surf isn't quite going to be able to KO, but that is perfectly fine. We're not worried. We will be able to maintain switch. So we throw 2 more Sparks and the next Surf to take out this Magcargo. See, my opponent wants to come back in with the Deoxys, which they do. And I'm able to get to this Thunderbolt on what appears to be the CMP tie. It was indeed the CMP tie. So you're able to get some nice chip damage and then let our Lanturn go down. Not quite, Rock Slide not quite enough to take out, but we do reach another Surf. Lanturn just putting in a ton of work this game. And now here we can safely bring in our Lanturn, so we can survive a Psycho Boost. So I'm gonna let it go, as we do, and in comes the Froslass. So here, a little bit of a misplay. I go for a Superpower here instead of a Leaf Blade. And if my opponent no shields it, which they do, it could get a little bit tricky. But the good news is that the Superpower is only single resisted as opposed to double resisted. So kind of still gives us a little bit of a chance, especially where Shadow Walrein. Our win condition here is to just go straight Icicle Spear. If we go Earthquake, and they shield the Earthquake, there's a chance that they can outpace us. As you'll see, just land an Icicle Spear, farm all the way down. Shadow Walrein with Shadow Icicle Spear. Just such a good move. Just such a good move. Now we see next, GG's my opponent. Next battle, Lurantis into Primeape. Primeape mainly runs Night Slash, Cross Chop, Night Slash Close Combat, but they also do have access to Ice Punch. So that's something that I do have to worry about. My opponent does build up to that Ice Punch, so I will respect it with the shield. It ends up being a Cross Chop, or a Night Slash bait, excuse me. And they actually make a very nice catch of the Superpower onto the Froslass. I know, 2 games in a row, Superpower onto a Froslass. Doing great. But we do have our hard answer for this Froslass and our Lanturn as we tank that Shadow Ball and go for this Thunderbolt right before they reach their next Shadow Ball. I don't go for a Surf here because a Surf's not quite enough to take it out, so we do go for that Thunderbolt to guarantee the knockout. And now we're just going to start spamming out these Surfs against the Primeape. First one's able to land, and now they're going to be throwing their Night Slash right away. Want to be able to take out my Lanturn as soon as possible, as they do go down, and they have a Jellicent in the back. And this is where that pacing of Lurantis with the Fury Cutter Leaf Blade combo is just so clutch. First Leaf Blade coming through, able to get their final shield. And then right here, I'm going to give up a shield because they're still a Hex away from their next Surf. So we outpace to this next Leaf Blade, which is going to do a ton of damage, might I add. Brings the Jellicent just about into the red. And now we can bring in our Walrein to close out this game. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Lurantis into Dunsparce. So, I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but this is key to having Lurantis on the lead. You're always going to want to overfarm and have your opponent throw their move first. Once they throw their move first, then you're free to throw yours for that throw your Superpower, I should say, because you don't want to throw your Superpower first and then debuff yourself afterwards, right? Because then their move will do more damage than it would before you've debuffed yourself. But in this case, it's fine throwing my move first because I loaded up to 2 Superpowers before I threw. So either they throw first or you throw first, but you got to make sure you're at the back-to-back. Unfortunately, I had a little bit of bad timing by throwing on CMP tie, so I couldn't get both Superpowers off before. But, you know, it is what it is. It happens. But afterwards, you throw that Superpower, you're then going to want to dip into your Shadow Walrein like I did. As we full send the Earthquake at this Lanturn, we're up 2 shields to 1, so that's why I full sent it. I was kind of hoping that they wouldn't give up their last shield there, but they did. And now my opponent's gonna double bait, but sending in a Lanturn, a water gun Lanturn, might I add, against a Shadow Walrein is an interesting decision, as we would outpace. So we watch for the catch, and this is why they brought in their water gun Lanturn against the Walrein, because they had a knockdown on the back. So my opponent going for their win condition, trying to catch an Earthquake on their knockdown, but we are patient, able to hang on to that energy, and they're able to take out my Walrein just before I get to the next Earthquake. But a half health water gun Lanturn against a full health spark Lanturn is going to be the game. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Lurantis into Lanturn. This is the dream lead. Absolute dream lead. See what my opponent wants to do, and they bring in a double. So here's that part I was talking about. You want to get some chip damage on double. I don't have a good response to it, so like I said, you want to get some chip first, but I let them throw first, have their body slam do less damage, as opposed to you throwing that Superpower first and then them landing that body slam. Now here, I swap into my Shadow Walrein. You may think, Capon, why are you swapping into your Shadow Walrein here against a double? It hits for super effective with the double kicks and just gets to spam out body slams. Well, they are down a shield, so all I need to do is match shields and I can keep switch. But my thinking here is that, say I swap in my Lanturn, right, and somehow I'm able to lose switch, which in hindsight, you know, I wouldn't have been able to, but say somehow I do. I don't want their Lanturn, which is most likely Spark, aligned against my Shadow Walrein. But more importantly, with a Lanturn Lead, they most likely have something weak to Lanturn in the back. So that's why I was wanting to save my Lanturn there, to potentially get it lined up against a Noctowl, a Nidoqueen, a water type, something, water poison type like Toxapex, Tentacruel, something like that. And there you go, it is the Toxapex. So we were able to read correctly. If you notice, that was me storing that Leaf Blade there. They land that Thunderbolt, brought us into the red, and I was kind of expecting them to try and go for a snipe to take out my Lurantis, but we also needed to bank a move there. So we're able to just hold on, get on out with that Leaf Blade for the Lanturn later on in the match, as we are able to get off this Thunderbolt for some nice damage against the Toxapex. And from here, this game should be in the bag, as a Sludge Wave is not enough to take us out, as we would have gotten the Spark down in time. So now we can throw this Thunderbolt to delay our switch clock, and now combo play with the Leaf Blade on our low health Lurantis to take out their Lanturn and spark down their Toxapex. GG's to my opponent. Well played. Next battle, we lead Lurantis into Victini, and oh, this is quite the core breaker for the team, as a V-Crate would absolutely eviscerate my own Lurantis. But I do swap into the Walrein here, as even though, again, Walrein doesn't have a good matchup by any means, as a V-Crate hits like a truck, I can do this. V-Crate drops their defense by 3 stages. So after they throw a V-Crate, this Icicle Spear is going to do a lot of damage. Now, like CMP Timey, Shadow Walrein, can it hang on? Just barely able to hang on, get off this next Icicle Spear, which ends up getting their second shield. Like I said, again, the first V-Crate drops your defense by 3 stages. So right there, they were at their max debuffs allowed. I bring my Lanturn, and they swap in a Noctowl. Is this match actually doable? I guess we'll find out. Thunderbolt able to land. And the sad part is about Lanturn versus Noctowl is that if you land a Thunderbolt, you still can't farm down in time. But the good news is, before they reach a second move, I should say, the good news is we did correctly shield up that Shadow Ball, as this one will only be the Sky Attack. Down goes the Noctowl. See, my opponent brings back in the Victini, or shows their third, and it's Altaria. So this is going to be a very tough one as well. Let's see how this plays out. We're able to land that Thunderbolt with all this energy we have on our Lanturn. Farm up, make it to another Thunderbolt. So we'll deal some respectable damage to the Walrein, and we swap out to try and catch a move on the Altaria, and in comes the Victini. And oh, we play to a CMP tie. Okay, so if this Leaf Blade does enough, they're triple debuffed with this V-Crate. If we can spark down in time, we'll win CMP over the Altaria, and we'll be able to take this very unlikely match. But my opponent just reaches a V-Crate in time. So close, such a close one, as down goes the Lanturn. GG's to my opponent, well played. Next battle, we lead Lurantis into Aurorus. Now this one is also an interesting matchup, similar like the Froslass one. We should be throwing this Leaf Blade right away as well. These Leaf Blades are still super effective to the Aurorus. Not double super effective like the Superpower, but they're still able to chunk. And by throwing those Leaf Blades out of the way right away, you have them make the first shielding decision. But in comes a Cresselia, and that's great, because now this is where I want to see the Cresselia on the team. And as long as I'm able to keep switch advantage, I can manage my own Lanturn onto that Aurorus, and hopefully Walrein has a good matchup in the back. But with the Psycho Cuts and Moonblast, my opponent is going to be able to double shield if they want and take switch, which they do. So a little bit of unfortunate. So now it seems as though most likely I'm going to be having the Aurorus lined up to my Shadow Walrein. But the good news here is we have access to Earthquake, where if my opponent allows me to farm down the Cresselia, I will be able to outpace my opponent to my Earthquake as compared to their Meteor Beam to one-shot that Aurorus with that Shadow Earthquake. And they recognize that, so they hard swap into their Aurorus, not wanting that to happen. But because they do that, I now have the alignment that I want of my Lanturn on the Aurorus. As we do take a Meteor Beam, take out their Aurorus and see what their final Pokemon is in the back, as it's an Altaria. So now our Walrein at full health is going to be able to clean up this match. My opponent is going to get a nice farm down here, but they will not be able to get to enough charge moves to be able to take out my Walrein in time. As here, whether they go for the Sky Attack, they're not going to be able to reach the second Sky Attack. So they go for the Moonblast, potentially trying to hit harder. And I overfarm. I'm patient. No need to throw right away, right? They're going to try to make a catch at some point. And my Walrein was healthy enough where it could withstand those Dragon Breaths. So we just overfarm till they try to make the catch, take out the Cresselia, and then take out the Altaria for a good game. GG's. Froslass Lead. So again, same thing as I said earlier. You're going to want to stay in, throw that Leaf Blade first against the Froslass, and then dip into your Walrein. Here, my opponent's going to go straight for the Shadow Ball, and we are going to bait with an Icicle Spear right back. Everybody knows Walreins like to bait, and this was no exception, and as my opponent knew as well, apparently. So they call that Icicle Spear, brings the Froslass to just about half health, and now in comes the Lanturn. And if at first your baits don't succeed, try again. And we're able to get it on that one, which also helps minimize the amount of farm the Lanturn could get against my Shadow Walrein. And now in comes my Lurantis. And again, Lurantis, farm up as much as you can. There's no need for me to throw this Leaf Blade right away to take out their Lanturn. I'm going to get to 100 energy first. Nothing this Lanturn can throw is going to threaten me. So having all this energy on Lurantis is going to be extremely deadly in the end game. But my opponent, very nice catch. Able to catch that Leaf Blade onto an Altaria. Read it perfectly. So we will store the energy that we have. Almost 2 Leaf Blades still. And we bring in our Lanturn to face this Altaria. I will give up a shield here to the Moonblast. And now farm up some extra energy and go for the Surf, which should just about be enough to knock out the Altaria when you put a couple more sparks in there. And unfortunately, that does allow them to reach another move, but it's only a Sky Attack, so I'm not quite worried. Back in comes their Lanturn. And right after I fire off this Thunderbolt, I'm going to hard swap into my Lurantis to just get a little bit more farm. Remember, always key to overfarm as much as you can when possible with your Lurantis, as that one Leaf Blade will take out their Lanturn. This next one will get the shield, and now it's going to be a race. Can I reach yet another Leaf Blade in time? As we do, Lurantis, ever so spammy, able to take out the Froslass for a good game. GG's to my opponent. Lurantis is one of those Pokemon that a lot of people brush by, but actually has a lot of potential. And as I said earlier, I just love using it in these limited metas, where if your opponent isn't prepared for it, it's going to absolutely dominate. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.